In this video, I'll show you how to make a CC1101 or an NRF24 attachment for the Cardputer Advance. So what you'll need is a PCB board. You'll need one of the modules. So if you're going to go for the CC1101 or the NRF24, you need a little 3.3 volt converter. So this will convert the 5 volt to 3.3 volts. Some silicone wire, and then just some header pins. So the first thing you're going to need to do is cut the board to the correct size. So depending on what you want to build, you've got the CC1101 would need this sort of board shape. So you've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 holes up, and then 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. So 6 by 11. Or you've got the NRF24, so it's the same height, so it's 6 by 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16. So it's 16 across. So what you'll have to do is just get the board, just cut it. So I like to cut just where it's going to get sanded, so stick there. So in this, just do an example, I'll do the same as the CC1101. And then I'll want to cut it just one, give it an extra one. So that's where it's going to get sanded. So I'll sand there, and then I'll sand there. To sand it, I just use 60 grit sandpaper. Just make sure you've got water on the sandpaper as well. And when you sand it, I like to sand that way. So you go that way, and they'll make it nice and straight. And then when I'm sanding on that side, I also do the same action. So it's just like that. And then once you've done the sanding, you should get something that looks like that. So that should be your final product once you've sanded it. So from there, you want to sand the sides and then the edges as well, just so it looks like that. Once that's done, the next step is we want to get the header pins. So these are the header pins. And the Cardputer Advance uses 7 across. So what you want to do is just count 7. So 3, 6, 7. And then to cut or snap it, all you have to do is just hold it on each side and just snap it. And it should give a nice clean cut. And then we can just attach it to the Cardputer. So we'll do it 2 times. And just hold it both sides and just snap. So just put it into the Cardputer. I mean, you don't have to put it in the Cardputer if you don't want to, but that's what I'm going to do just to make it easier to solder into place. Next thing you want to do is put the PCB board on top of it. So you want to space it out so it's, So you want to space it out. So for the CC1101, you've got 2. So you've got 2 holes on each side, and you want the board to be at the very front. For the NRF24, you want to do it similar. It's just different spacing. So I think the way I've done it is I've put 4 at the front. Oops, 4 holes. Yeah. And then there's, I think, 5 at the back. So I won't do the NRF24. It'll be pretty much the same method, just a little bit different spacing. So I'll show you what it looks like at the end. So once we've got it into place, and it should look like that. So before we start soldering, I just wanted to say a quick thank you to the sponsor of this video, PCBWay. If you want to take your projects to the next level, they offer a number of different services from manufacturing PCB boards, CNC machining, 3D printing, sheet metal fabrication, and injection molding. So if you need any of these services, I would highly recommend you check them out. Also, don't forget to check out their module store where they have a number of tools, parts, and modules that might be useful for your next projects. So if you wanted to get a new soldering iron or something, you can look in their the module store, and they have a couple different soldering irons you can choose from. So we'll just get back to the video. So once it's in place like that, the next thing we want to do is just solder it into place. So I'll just heat up my soldering iron. And the way I like to solder it is, I like to do just to put one point in first. So I'll just solder this one in. And once you've got a bit of solder on it, let's put a little bit more. So once it's got a little bit of solder on it, just enough to hold it into place, then I can just use my hand to make sure it's sitting flush. And then you just want to check to make sure it's sitting flush. It's a bit hard to see in the video. But yeah, it's sitting flush. So once that one has held it in place and it looks good, then I can start soldering the rest. And I would solder, the next one I'll do is just the one across. Then yeah, it's just a matter of soldering the rest in. And you just got to be careful if you're soldering it with the Cardputer Advanced, just to make sure you're not going to damage it by dropping solder or accidentally melting the Cardputer. So it's up to you if you want to do it like this, or if you want to solder it separately from the Cardputer Advanced. That looks pretty good. So I've soldered all the pins in. Next step is to get the voltage converter. And we want to remove all the pins on it. So the easiest way to do that is you can easily just take off the plastic bit. So it's just the pins. And then we just want to remove the pins. Try to zoom in. So you can always add a little bit of extra solder onto the joints, just so it makes it a bit easier to remove. Obviously you don't need that much. And then just heat it up, and then you should be able to just pull it out. The next thing you want to do is you want to remove the solder from the joints, or the hole, sorry. So I'll just get a solder sucker. Take these off. Might be a bit hard to do it on camera. We'll see how we go. So I've removed all the solder from the holes. And then we just want to get one of the spare header pins that we've got. And then you need 3. So I'll just snap that one off. And then we just want to push the pins all the way into the plastic. Like that. So it looks like that. And we can remove the board from the Cardputer. And then we just want to place the 3.3 volt converter, and the way I like to do it is I just put it into to line up with the middle pin. So the middle pin is the number 4. So you go 1, 2, 3, 4, and that's the middle pin. And just line up with that. So it goes in like that. And then we just want to turn the board around and just put pressure on it. And then just make sure it's, so just turn around, sorry, and you put pressure onto it, and just make sure the pins are flush against the PCB board. So they're just pretty much sitting below the surface or just in line with it. Then we'll get a bit of solder. It's a bit hard on camera. Hopefully you can see it. Just heat it up and just put a little bit of solder on it. So it looks something like that. Then we can turn the board around again and just so I'll just heat this one up. So we can turn the board around again and then just get some snips, and then we just want to cut it flush. So just cutting it flush with the converter board, and it'll look like that. Make sure the sides are lined up so it's sitting in line, and then we can just solder that into place. So I'll zoom in again. Like that. And then we want to get some silicone wire. So I'll just try to get it lined up for the camera. Some silicone wire for the positive. So I'm just going to use some red. And I'll tin the wire as well, and then I'll just cut it so it's... So tin it, and then I'll just cut it. You don't need much, just a little section. And that's going to go to the voltage in, and so the voltage in is the one on the very far right. So that's in place, and then we just want to so this one is going to the voltage in is going to the pin 5 volts from the Cardputer. So that's, if we're looking from the right hand side, that's number 3. So 1, 2, 3. So that's the 5 volts out. So just want to get it to that pin. So what I've done is just took the shield, the coating off it a bit, and then I just can wrap it around. Oops. So just wrapped it around the pin a little bit, and then we can solder that into place. Then you can cut that wire off, or you can just twist. And then we just want to get some more of the red wire for the power again. So I'll just do the same thing. I'm just going to tin the wire and then I'll snip it. And this one's going to go to the voltage out. So the voltage out is the one on the left, so the one with the VO. And this one will go to pin 2 of the CC1101. So it's on the pinout for the CC1101 or the NRF24, they're both the same. It goes 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So this one's going to go to pin 2, so that's the power in. So pin 2, once we put the CC1101 in, we'll go to this one here. So I just want to make sure it's measure how much we need to strip off. And then I can just give it a bit of a pull and a twist. And then we just want to thread it through that hole. So this is going to pin 2. And just try to lay it neatly so it looks like that. The next one we're going to do is the ground. So we'll do the same thing, just tin the wire. And that's going to the center one, so the ground. Put a little bit more solder on it. And this one is going to the ground of the Cardputer header. So that's the number 2 from the right. So 1, 2. So right next to the 5 volts in, there's the ground. So I want to put it to there. So same thing, just measure it to where we need to sort of strip it. So I want to go to there. Just use my fingernails. And you just want to pull out just a small bit, so it looks like that. And then we can do the same thing, just wrap it around. And then solder that one into place. So like that. We don't want to pull this one off, so we're going to use that connection, and that's going to go to number 1 of the CC1101 or the NRF24. So it's going to go to that one there. So strip it. And then same thing, just thread it through that hole. looks like that. And then we're going to have to solder in the other wires. So we're going to solder in from this one. So it goes, if we're counting from the left side, it's number 1, 2, so from 2. So 2, I think it's until the very last one. So the middle 5. So 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Yeah, the middle 5 is what we need to put wires to. So I'll just get some wire ready for those. So I'm just going to do the same thing, just tin all the wires and just trim it so it's nice and small. The other thing I have got for this is I've printed off some spacing, like some little plastic spaces to help once I put it all together. It's got a nice spacing between it. So if you don't have a 3D printer, if you can find something that's like a good spacing that you can cut to use or glue in, you can do it that way, or you can use, I guess, hot glue to give it a bit of insulation in between and help stick the two components together, the PCB board and the module. But yeah, you'll see once we get to the next step. You'll also have to do some, change some configurations in the Bruce firmware, so it allows this to work. And I'll also show that in the next step as well. Alright, so it's got some wires, trimming it. So you're going to need 5 pieces of wire. You don't have to use different color, but I'll use it just so it's a bit easier to keep track. And I'll also give a link to the silicone wire I'm using. So I'm using 30 AWG silicone wire, and it makes the job really easy compared to using like the other style of wire. Alright, so next thing we're going to do is just solder the wires in. So it's the 5 metal ones. Let's do that one again. All right. And then the next step is quite simple. So I've got pin 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So that's number 7. And then what we're going to do next is essentially get the first wire, and that's going to go to number 7. The second wire will go to number 6. Third will go to 5. That one will go to 4. And this one will go to number 3. So it's quite easy. So it's just a matter of going, next to the next. So I'll just show you doing that. So I just pull the wires out of the way. So the first one, we can run it to that one there. So that's 7. So you just pull, twist, and then push through. And then same for the rest. So I'll go to the next one. So yeah, I like to use a little bit of extra wire. It's always better to have a bit more than you need than not enough, so you can just trim off the rest that you don't need. And then the last one is going to number 3. Push it through. So it should look like that. And the next step is getting the board ready. So for the CC1101, what I've done already is I've removed this plastic header part. So I've just used some tweezers and I've just pried it out and then gently just pushed it all the way out. And then I've just got some of my, this is the spacers I was talking about. It's just like a 2mm 3D printed spacer. And I've just put that on each corner. So one on each corner. Then we can get the board and then we're just going to sandwich it together. So line up the holes to the pins and then you just want to sandwich it with the actual the wires in place as well. And as you can see, like this is what I was talking about. So we've got a spacer, so there's enough space there and the board doesn't touch the 3.3 volt converter. If you don't have a 3D printer, you can't print these spacers out. You can just use a bit of hot glue, I guess, and put it in the middle, or I'd put some tape there as well underneath the CC11 board, or just put it onto the converter. Just make sure it doesn't like short out or something. So that's what it looks like. Let's just zoom out. And then we can test it out as well. So before we solder it all into place, just want to make sure the connections are right. I'll trim out some of this excess wire. So don't cut it all off yet. Just cleaning it up a bit. And just pull the wires, make sure they're not shorting out anything. Sort of just separate them apart. Make sure everything looks all right. And then we can test it on the Cardputer. It's working. So I'll just show you the settings that you need to change. So in the SD card, or it's in the little, where is it? Let me check. So it's on the SD card or little FS. What you want to do is change there's Bruce pins, that one, .conf. So if you go into there, I've already changed it on my computer. So what I've done is I put the SD card onto my computer and then I've edited it in Notepad. We'll just view. And you'll see here, these are the pins that I've changed. So what you have to do is just change CS to 6, and then IO0 to 4. So that's for the CC1101. And you also want to do that same thing to the NRF24. So yeah, as you can see, it's 6 and 4. Default, I think it's 1 and 2 or something. But once you've done that, then you can go then I'll just go into the RF. And I've already changed it to the CC1101 module. So if I put that on top, and if everything goes to plan, if I go to scan, you can see it's gone into thing, no issue. And I've got a little remote here, and you can see it's working. So let's test it, and it's working. The next step is, once we've tested it all, we can just make sure we just want to clean up the wires. So make sure it's all sitting in place. Oh, sorry, before we do that, I'll just gently pull it out. And then what I want to do is put some glue onto those spaces so it's all held into place nicely. Just get a little bit of super glue and just put a little bit of glue on each corner. Doesn't need to be much, just enough to help hold it together. There's nothing worse than having too much super glue everywhere. Alright, so it's got a little bit of glue there now. And then I just want to carefully put it back together. And just make sure nothing's in the way. And try to line it up so it sits straight on, and then just push it into place. And just hold it for a couple seconds. So I'll just use this to help hold it while I'm doing the rest. Alright, so once we've done that, I like to use some snips and just cut it so it's completely flush. So just make sure you don't flick it, like cut it into your, and it'll go into your eye. So just make sure you're always covering it. So I just use my finger to sort of stop it from going anywhere else. So it should look like that, and just make sure there's no wires that are shorting on other pins, and then we can just solder it into place. Set it again. Let's get the last one. Then you can just clean up with some alcohol. Oh, it does look a bit weird. Should be okay. So that's what it looks like. So that's the finished product. So that's for the CC1101. So it's exactly the same thing for the NRF24. So this is just example of what it should look like. I've done the same thing. I've just put some spaces on 4 parts for the the NRF24. I didn't have to remove you don't have to remove the plastic on this one. So you can just leave that in place because it's got enough spacing. So this is what it looks like. So it's pretty much the same wiring, except it's just a little bit different spacing. So it's further up across. So you can see the difference. Yeah. So it's just got, I think it's 3 hole spacing compared to the CC1101. but everything else is wired exactly the same. So wire exactly the same as the CC1101, just different spacing. So try to do it like that. It sandwiches into place as well, and it should look like that. And then you can just test it as well. So just test to make sure it works. You can just go into the NRF24 and just make sure, yeah, you have to make sure the pins have changed in the brief firmware to make sure it's working. And then I can just go into NRF, and then I'll go to Spectrum, and you can see it's working. So that's it for the video. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.